Okay, guys, welcome back to Real Estate Analysis 101. This is Paul Hunter. I'm a realtor in Houston. I've been here for the last 7 years. I'm from Colombia, South America, so I know a little bit about high inflation, high interest rates, and high unemployment. Today, we're going to be covering, again, the gloom and doom that you see in some of the, some of the media and what we can do to kind of counter that a little bit. So first of all, though, I want to make sure that you understand I'm not a financial advisor, but I do appreciate likes, subscriptions to my channel, and comments, good or bad. I appreciate even the bad ones because I can learn from that. So let's get started. Before we get started, though, as always, I just want to let you know I am not a doom and gloom kind of guy. I just give you the facts. The trouble is that if enough people buy into that doom and gloom, the psychology behind it might actually create a recession or even worse. So I'm not going to blow any smoke up anywhere. I'm not trying to be a Pollyanna about any of this stuff, but I do like to look at data and just the information. So remember that economics is mainly a result of psychological alignments of a critical mass of human thought. And what does that mean? It means that if enough people start thinking along a certain line, they'll start acting that way, and they'll generate a result that is in alignment with that thought. So if we think doom and gloom, and guess what? That's what we're going to get. So I also like to give you a definition of the markets, right? We have the basic is the balanced market is if we have inventory that if no new listing comes on the market, we could sell it off in 6 months. That's just the traditional definition of a balanced market. Anything less than 6 months is a seller's market. Anything more than that is a buyer's market. So right now we're around the 3 months mark, which means we're still in a very strong seller's market. The things are changing, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But I still want you to understand this is not doom and gloom time, no panic time just yet. Okay, so let's read this article that I found that might be interesting for all you guys, and that's here. It says, "Collapse in home prices coming, experts say." So the real estate market has screeched to a halt, and some economists believe home prices are about to drop significantly. The big picture. Existing home sales have fallen for 9 straight months. The supply of single-family homes is growing, and with mortgage rates around 7%, experts say a large-scale housing slowdown is becoming increasingly likely. What they are saying, in one line, collapse in prices coming. The Pkwy macroeconomics. These guys estimate that the home prices will be falling, ultimately dropping about 20% from their peak in June of around $414,000. Goldman Sachs analysts also recently cut their outlook for home prices from roughly flat next year to down 4%, noting that unsustainable levels of housing affordability continue to be weighing on housing demand. Well, down 4% is not a lot. It's still above what it was last year. So, hey, not a bad thing. Well, as we see between the lines, until recently, economists had poo-pooed the prospect of a nationwide price slump, suggesting that persistently low inventories of houses to buy would put something of a floor on the market. Well, that's not what people were saying. What people have been saying for quite a while is that we're having this gloom and doom, that we have all this trouble going on, and now they're a little more even keeled. So let's continue here. Even if demand fell because of surging mortgage rates, they reasoned there would still be enough buyers for the relatively small number of houses for sale, meaning prices likely wouldn't drop much. Now they're catching on to what this really means. Yes, but here we go to the but. While analysts are coming around to the idea that house prices could see a correction again, they still don't see an outright bust. Finally coming around to where, so they're finally coming around to what really is going on. And the truth of the matter is that it's unlikely, because of all of what's going on in the market, it's unlikely that we'll have a crash. Now, It depends, again, psychologically. If you thought you're going to get 30 or 40% more for your home and you're only going to get 10% more, that feels like a bust, right? It's like a crash. It's horrible. I lost 30% of my value. Well, no, you didn't. I hate to tell you, but you didn't. You made 10% on your value. If you don't realize a gain, it's all on paper. It means nothing. So I still think, look, if we have a seller's market, that means that the conditions are still favoring the sellers. We have less than 6 months worth of inventory. Now, the mortgage rates, as we've discussed before, have kind of stabilized. We've seen 3-4 weeks of them coming down a little bit, very little bit. And there's some other things we talked about before, some lender programs that they can buy down the interest rate, hoping to see how the correction works in your favor. So anyway, but coming back to the real, without any tricks or tips really that out of the ordinary, we have inventory that is limited, so the supply is not huge. The demand isn't great, but there's still people out there buying. If you look at the number of homes sold, there's still a big number being sold. We do see that the listing prices are coming down. And so people who put their homes on the market a month or two ago, or as we talked about in another video, it takes them about a month to realize that they're overpriced. And the market changes according to supply and demand. So we're never going to get away from that. It doesn't matter what anybody says or any government program or any government policy or action. If they restrict one or the other, it's still going to be a supply and demand situation. So anyway, coming back, I think people are starting to understand that we won't have this horrible crash, doom and gloom. And I'm hoping that people start to see this as a reality. Another item that I think we need to look at is very important is in this article is if we look at this, unemployment remains low. And most homeowners who bought in recent years have locked in rock bottom rates, making the payments affordable. That means that a huge surge in defaults, like the one that crashed the U.S. housing market in 2008 and 2009, is unlikely, economists say. Well, that is a big part of why I don't think that we're going to be seeing a crash. Part of it. The other part is that lenders have been a lot more stringent in their standards for approval of loans than they were in 2008 and 9. So that's going to make it a little bit more difficult for a crash to come about. Doesn't mean it won't. Again, I don't have a crystal ball. Nobody does. But I don't think it's going to happen quite like that. I think there's going to be a correction, as we saw in another video, how the trend line is always around 4%. We're above that trend line, so there'll be a slight correction, and then we'll keep on going. If we look at what's going on in terms of numbers, I still see what's going on as it was in 2019, which was a very good year for real estate. So I don't think that we're going to be looking at terrible crashes of gloom and doom. Okay, so now the important part that we need to look at here is mortgage rates are still coming down. So let's go over this article that might be interesting. It's from Freddie Mac. And if we look at these two items right here, one is a 30-year fixed mortgage rate, averaged 6.49% as of December 1st, which was down from last week when it averaged 6.58. Now that's not a huge decrease, but it's at least staying relatively stable. And it is over twice as much as it was a year ago. So that's what people are having trouble with, because they're seeing from 3.1 to 6.49, that's more than double. So that's people are seeing that will affect your monthly your mortgage payment, and that means you either have to save more to put more money down and have the loan be a smaller amount. But the same thing happened with a 15-year mortgage rate. So important to understand, mortgage rates continue to decrease. Now, it doesn't mean that they're going to decrease forever. And it doesn't mean that it's going to come down to again to 2 and 3, 4% that we saw till mid-year last year or even this year. Now, I hate to come into this, but I want to. I saw an article and I saw it on TV or somewhere. Jerome Powell is either an idiot or he pretends to be. He says, we didn't know inflation would be this persistent. Really? When I have never seen before this pandemic and all this so-called supply chain. Nobody knew about supply chains before the pandemic. And it turns out that you see in the supermarket, you see things like, you see these rows of shelves that are empty. I had never seen that before. So it's kind of again, being from Colombia, where that's normal, coming here and seeing all the shelves always full, all of a sudden seeing some of them not so full, it makes you think. The other thing is you go to the gas pump and you're paying, in Texas, we're paying about $1.20 or $1.50 per gallon more. Now, it doesn't sound like a lot, but if you're filling up 2 or 3 times a week, that adds up. And everything in the economy is dependent on fuel because there's either in the production or in the transportation of the goods from wherever they're being produced or grown or serviced to the final output where they're going to be bought by the consumers. So you go to the supermarket and everything costs 30, 40 cents more, $1 more. And again, it doesn't sound like a lot, but when you go pay and you were used to paying, say, I don't know, $250 per visit to the grocery store for your weekly groceries, all of a sudden you're paying $320, $330 for the same amount, or sometimes even less. That's a huge amount of increase, and we've been seeing that for quite a while. So again, Jerome Powell was saying that he didn't understand that the what do you call it? That the inflation would be this persistent. He's got the best data, supposedly. He's got it all, and he can't figure that out. That people like us that go to the grocery store, regular people, just seems a little bit unrealistic, or he's putting it through a political prism, trying to score points. And again, this is not a political show. I don't want to get into that. But unfortunately, politics do play into it, and that's why I want to come up with this part. The inflation rate will continue to be persistent. I mean, as long as the gasoline prices and all of the energy prices being up, we are going to see inflation. Now, that's going to cause other effects. Fortunately, the Fed has said that they will not be making any more 75 basis points increases in the Fed funds rate, which affects, down the line, it affects the mortgage rate. So the last one was 50 basis points, and they don't expect any more 75. That they'll be either 50 or around that neighborhood. So that would make it so that the mortgage rates stay stable or they increase at a more normal rate. It doesn't mean that we're going to get back to 2% mortgage rates. I just don't see that happening. This was kind of once in a lifetime thing. It's a historically low anomaly. That just doesn't happen. So I just want everybody to know that it was good while it lasted. Now we get to get back to reality and use our psychology to get going in a more realistic. And again, there's always been opportunity. So don't despair. So just so you know that I'm not being Pollyannish about all of this stuff, I do look at all of the data. So I want to share with you guys another article regarding pending home sales. Now, pending home sales mean those are the sales that were under contract and they're in the process of closing. Now, many items affect this closing. Sometimes the lenders take a little bit longer to approve the loans. So the pending, if it was an average of 25, 24 days, and then they go to 30 days, that affects the numbers. The other thing is this: with the inflation and the interest rates, some buyers, when the time comes, cannot be approved for the loan. So those pending home sales fall through the cracks and they have to go back on the market. So I have this article I want to share with you guys. And it says pending home sales declined 4.6% in October. Now, this is just some highlights. The pending home sales dropped for the 5th consecutive month, down 4.6 from September. Month over month, contract signings fell in 3 of major 4 U.S. regions, while the Midwest registered an increase. So again, it depends. Again, real estate is very local. Pending sales decline in all regions from 1 year ago. Now, that just means that the market is not as crazy as it was. In other words, we're not getting 5, 6, 7 offers per home on the market. End to end, I want to share with you guys some stats. Every month we have the same kind of thing every week, but I like to look at it weekly to see if there's any changes. So here we go. We have the median list price is $416,000. That's 11% above last year. Days on market, 56. So those have gone up a little bit. And active listings have gone up dramatically, 47% over last year. So the supply is growing, which means that at some point the pressure of more supply and less demand, we will definitely be having some corrections in terms of home prices. And that's a good thing. It really is. I know that for some sellers, they may be a little bit put off because, again, their profit is not going to be as big as it could have been. But then they didn't sell at that time. And if they had sold at the time and they wanted to buy, they would be paying more for what they were buying. So it's all kind of a wash. The only people who could realize those gains and do something about it, kind of, is those people who were willing to sell, realize the gain, and then rent for a year or two while the market stabilized. Now, if you're willing to do that, that was a good thing, and I gave that advice to a lot of my sellers. Some of them took it, others didn't. Some of them now feel like that might have been a good idea. But again, renting is not for everybody, especially if you've lived in your own home for a while. To go out there and live as a renter, it's a little bit different. So I think that you have to take that into consideration. So just to finish off, I want to just tell you guys, be careful with what you read. Keep a running tab in your mind as so you make small and appropriate adjustments. In other words, I don't think that any of this stuff happens like in a really big change. It'll show you trends. Please keep in mind just have like situational awareness related to real estate. And more importantly, your psychological approach to real estate decisions. You need to be aware whether you have long-term or short-term reasons to sell or buy. So that's the kind of thing you need to look at. You look at your local market, talk to your realtor, and then make appropriate decisions in that sense. Well, guys, I hope you got some value from this video. Please let me know in the comments. You guys know I want you to gain understanding of the psychology behind economics so you can make better real estate decisions. I am not a financial advisor. I am just a realtor from Houston that wants to share my insights, my successes and my failures, so you can learn from me and what I've done. When you're out there, be good or be careful, or if not, be both. You guys take it easy and see you around next time.